in the last video.
So my wife has been asking for a new mailbox.
As you can see, the old one's pretty crappy and really needed to be replaced. So the first thing we need to make is a base to put the mailbox on. I got these rough sawn redwood sleepers, spent some time cleaning them up, made some pretty flash joints and put it all together. Then we carved some lettering, made a peg by hand, hammered it through to give us a nice tight joint, dug a big hole to set the stand in, and there we have it. We've got a finished post, and in this video we're going to make the mailbox.
Voila! Look at that. The works.
So we fired up the old man's iPad here and got some dimensions and an idea of what I wanted to do.
Mailbox that we want, so we want enough timber to do all that, which is there. Alright, let's get some timber.
This is a piece of 200 by 50 rough sawn Micrcarpa, which we should be able to get all the components out of. First job, of course, is we're going to cut these into the rough dimensions, and then we'll machine them down and tidy them up. I don't have a big flash jointer, so I'm going to square up one of these edges with the big jack plane. So we'll square it up nice and straight as well, and then we've got two good sides, which I'm marking now. Using those two good sides, we can now run these through the bandsaw and rip them in half and create two boards. Then we'll quickly run these through the thicknesser again, and we're ready to start assembling. We'll edge joint these two pieces together. These two components will become the sides of the mailbox. So I ran the jack plane along the edge here to make this was nice and square with a slight cupping in it, and then it'll clamp up nicely if you've done a good enough job. If you've squared this edge up really nice, you can see here you don't need a lot of pressure and clamping pressure to get the edges to come into nice contact together. These were clamped up quite lightly, but it created a lovely clean joint. And after a couple of hours in the clamps, I was able to take them out, and I've got the two side panels of the mailbox ready to go. These pieces here are the bottom, back and front of the mailbox. Now I've clamped them all together, and then I'll plane them all together, which will create the same thickness through all three components. It's a quick and easy way of making sure that they're all even and all the same. So we'll trim up the ends on the two sides and clean them up. And this is another good thing about my old man iPad. I can actually take the angles off the drawing that I've done on it and apply them to the components I'm making. So obviously in one of these sides we need a door. Now I did a lot of head scratching here trying to figure out how to put a door in the middle of this panel without wrecking the panel. You know, I thought about jigsawing it out, or using the saw to cut a hole in the middle and then a handsaw with the rest, but that would have been quite ugly. So my solution to the problem is I'll actually cut the components all the way through. So you'll see here I'm being very careful to keep the alignment of the panels so I know where they come from, and I'll keep cutting the components out and leaving me the door in the middle. You see on here I'm writing this is the door panel and that's the bottom panel. Now if I've done this right, I can put all these components together and I'll be left with a door in the middle, and from there I can then just glue the panel together, leaving the space for the door.
This. That. And that's like that. Alright, we've cut a door out.
The beauty of doing it this way, well this is what I thought, is it'll have consecutive grain through the whole panel, even though there's going to be a door in there. And I think it'll look pretty cool. There's a few more clamps used in this panel because I wanted to make sure that while it was clamped together it still remained flat. And in the end it came out pretty good. I was very pleased with the result of my solution.
There we go. And we've got a panel with the door in it. Cool.
Next job is I wanted to put a curve in the front of the mailbox, so it's an arc. So you can see I put a couple of blocks and then I just bent the ruler to the curve I wanted and then drew that in. And then of course just cut it out with the bandsaw. While we're here, I cut the angle for the top because the mailbox shape will have a sloping top. Now to make sure that the two panels are exactly the same, I just aligned the panels up and then I clamped them in the vise with a couple of clamps, and then I planed down the edges so that the two panels were true to each other.
And we're flat too.
I wanted to keep the sides clean, so I didn't want to just screw the bottom and the bottom and the sides directly on the back of it. So I'm going to make some half lap joints here, and this is how I'm going to connect the bottom, back and front in. Now I could have run this back through the table saw and cut this joint out, but hey, when you've got an excuse to use a hand tool, why not? You know, so I got the little hand plane out to plane these down, and then I'll once I get them close, I'll then use the router plane to take them to finished thickness. You can see with the router plane here, when I'm coming to the end of the board, I don't just drive it off the edge of the board because it'll just smash out that back edge. So I'll get close and then I'll work the router plane around so that it'll cut that edge instead of breaking it out. And it's a nice clean joint. Here I'm evening up the curve in the front of the two boards, so they're both the same. So same process when we did the top. I clamped them together, and then using the spoke shave, I'm just working them down so they're all both the same size. So this piece is the front of the mailbox. This is where the letters are going to be put through, and this will be recessed into the two side panels back from the front edge, as you'll see here. So to put this half lap joint in, I'll use the router with a trim bearing on it and clean the joint out using that. Using the router plane now to make sure it's the same depth as the bottom and back joints, and then I'll just use the chisel to square up the end for the board.
That'll do.
Now we've got to put the same half lap joint into the bottom for that for the front panel to drop into as well. This had to go in a bit of a funny angle, hence I'm doing it all by hand. So I hand sawed this at the correct angle that the board's going to be going into it, and then I'll clean out the joint with chisels and of course the router plane. Then we trim the bottom to the same angle that the board's at, and we check the fit. It's looking pretty good. So with all the components completed, next job is let's glue it all together.
Alright. Glued up now. No going back.
Now the box probably didn't need it, but I did it anyway. I'm going to put some packers in the inside and screw them to the inside to give it more strength and make sure it holds together for a long time. Now this whole packet here cost me almost $80, and all I wanted was this component out of it. Boy, they know how to get money out of these people. And this is why I wanted it. It was the only way I could get access to the inside of the box to put the screws in and screw these packers into the sides, fronts and backs. I must admit, it was a great little tool and it did a fantastic job.
You're getting the mailbox fitted.
I left the bottom and the back panels a little bit long, which I'll now trim off and just clean up with the block plane. You can see I put a couple of brackets on the inside of the hole for the door on the main side there. These will be the door stop, and now all I'm doing is I'm trimming the door to fit nicely. We didn't want a too snug a fit to allow for the swelling and expansion of the timber, so I just adjusted the size so that we've got a nice fit. Pretty good. Bit of a cup in it though. Sort that out. So, to fix that, get those on the back, and then we'll screw it up onto these and it'll straighten it out. And it's now flat, and it'll stay flat now, which is good. Alright, put the hinges on, put the door on. So this is how I do my hinges. I mark out the area for the hinges, which is basically half the depth. Once that's marked out with a cut edge, I'll then take the chisel and I'll cut halfway down and then remove that waste. Once that's done, and then I'll repeat that cut and I'll gradually work down to the line of the depth I want and clean out the pocket for the hinge. So we repeat the same process for the box. I put the door back in and actually with my marking knife mark the position of the hinge, and then I just repeat the process. Now, alignment of the screws to the center of these holes for the hinges is quite important. If these are off, it'll have a tendency of twisting the hinges around. So I spent a bit of time with the awl to actually mark the dead center of those holes, so that when I hopefully put the screws in and screw it all together, it all lines up. Alright, it's the door on. It's not a perfect fit. For a mailbox, it's pretty good, I think. So of course we've got to put a latch on this. Now I spent some time on a scrap piece working out the process to get a nice fit with the latch, which is what you're seeing me do here now. When I'm drilling through, as you can see here, I'll drill through to the point comes out the other side, then I'll flip around and drill back the other way. This stops any blowout and tearing chunks out of the wood, which can be quite frustrating when that happens. Alright, that should be our locking mechanism. Okay, see if it works. Ha ha, look at that. It works. Beautiful. Alright, finish the lid, chamfer the edge, a bit of sanding, the jobs are good. Now I'm going to screw the lid into place. I'm countersinking these because I'll put bungs in to hide the screw holes. What I tried to do with the bungs as well is try and match the area the bungs were coming out to the same type of wood that they had to go into, just to make them less noticeable. It wasn't perfect, but the matches weren't too bad. You know, you didn't have drastic changes in the colour which highlighted them even more. Then it was just a matter of gluing them in, and then once that was dry, trimming them off. Then I applied 3 coats of some Sicken stain. This is the same stain I used on the big gate build, and that's really lasting really well. This is good stuff, and I would certainly recommend it if you're looking to stain up some raw timber for outdoor applications. Now I just got to drill some holes so we can screw it to the big frame I made, and then reassemble the whole thing. Now if I made both these components true and square, they should align and fit in nicely. Which they did. Who would have thought? Then I put in some 50mm lag screws. I think I put 4 on the bottom and 4 on the back, and screwed it all in, so it's as solid as hell. We have it, the completed mailbox, the frame and the box itself. I think it's come out really, really good. Very, very happy with it. It's quite a unique piece. There's certainly, you certainly don't see a lot of this type of mailboxes anywhere. Yeah, I really like how it's come out. I like the joinery on the main post and the support, and I like the style of the box. The letter carving come out really good. Really pleased with that. And really pleased at how the box fitted it into the frame. It was all nice and square. The other thing that worked out pretty good as well is if on the lid here you can see the bungs, spending that little bit of time getting the right grain in there, that they did match pretty good, so they didn't stick out too much. But no, there it is. If you want to watch my previous video, I actually make the frame for this, so you know, have a look at that. It's got a drawer through tenon there. All the joints are all generally handmade. But certainly a major step up from the last mailbox. So thanks for watching, everyone. Thanks for getting this far. I appreciate your support. If you like what you saw, please hit the thumbs up, and if you appreciate the content, please subscribe. Cheers, everyone, and on to the next project.